Hey, this is Andy Brown, and we are at the start of our journey asking the most important question first, which is what is the AWS Cloud Practitioner? Well, it's AWS's entry level certification that's going to teach you things like the cloud fundamentals. So, we're talking cloud concepts, architectures, deployment models. It's a close look at AWS core services, which would be our compute, our storage, our network, our databases. And it's a quick look at the vast amount of AWS services and functionality around AWS. So, we're looking at identity, security, billing, pricing, support, and a lot more stuff. And we'll get into that in the course, and we'll even look at the exam guide outline. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff. The course code for this certification is now the CLF-C02. The old one was the C01. The way to know if there is a new course is if this becomes the C03. If you see that, then this course may be out of date. But yeah, right now it's the C02. Often people refer to this certification as the CCP to stand for the Certified Cloud Practitioner. How you want to refer to it is up to you, but there are a few ways of describing this certification. I want to point out that AWS is the leading cloud service provider in the world, and the Cloud Practitioner is the most common starting point for people breaking into the cloud. So even if you're going to utilize another cloud service provider, I'm just going to say that you're going to get a really good foundation with this certification, even if it's not the same provider. So who is the certification for? Well, consider the Cloud Practitioner if you are new to cloud and you're learning the fundamentals, you are at the executive management or sales level, and you need to acquire strategic information about cloud for adoption or migration, or you are a senior cloud engineer or solutions architect who needs to reset or refresh their AWS knowledge after working with cloud services or AWS for multiple years. It's always a surprise that when I come back and I refresh this course, the things that have changed, and it's very easy to miss those things. So yeah, this certification is for everybody. So what is the value of the certification? Well, this certification provides the most expansive view possible of cloud architecture and AWS. I would describe this as having a bird's eye view or the 50,000 foot view. So with that in mind, the idea here is to promote big picture thinking. We're zooming out and assessing the cloud or AWS landscape for things like changes, trends, opportunities. And it's important to understand about being strategic about the approach and process for your journey. And that's why I like the certification so much. And I strongly recommend it for everybody's journey. So what is the value of the certification? Well, it's not a difficult exam. It's not going to validate that you can build cloud workloads. So if you are trying to obtain a technical implementation role like cloud developer, cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, it's not going to be enough to attain those technical cloud roles, but it could help shortlist your resume for interviews. The exam covers content not found in other certifications, so it is recommended as an essential study guide for your AWS journey. Do not skip this one. Some people like to go straight to the solution architect, and then they realize that they didn't set a good foundation, or they just have gaps in their knowledge, which could really help them out in their careers. So really do not skip this one. I like to make these roadmaps to give you an idea in terms of where you can go after this certification. So here is all the certifications currently that AWS has. Notice that I have the data engineer. It's a really small one. It just it came out as a beta exam. It's not as hard as the professionals. It's just where I place it on this diagram. But the idea is that we have a lot of different ways that we can navigate or work through these certifications, and these can generally map to particular roles in the cloud. So very often people go right to the solutions architect. I'm just getting my pen out here, but very often this is the approach. They'll go straight to here right after the solution architect because they're very similar in terms of scope and challenge and difficulty, where the solution architect is a broad certification, just like the cloud practitioner, but it's more focused on the technical knowledge, whereas this one, of course, is much more broad, the cloud practitioner. And then after that, people will generally go for the developer or the SysOps administrator. In my personal opinion, I really do think that people should study all three associates and do all three associates at the same time, because really I don't find that it makes sense to leave out the SysOps admin or developer knowledge. It's just the way that AWS engineers their certifications. But when you go to other ones like, let's say, Google, they only have one associate and they have all the, they call it cloud engineer and it has everything in it. And so, again, I just feel like you should take all three, but you decide what works for you. Um, and, you can see that there are various routes, but I want to just make it very clear that certifications do not validate programming. They do not make you do technical diagramming. They don't necessarily make you do code management. And there's many other technical skills that are required for obtaining technical roles, like these roles. And that is not the purpose of certification. Certification is supposed to give you knowledge specifically on AWS. And so just understand that you need to make sure you get those skills somewhere else. I do try to slot in a lot of these technical skills where I can. And so if we're doing something in the course and you're wondering, why are we doing this when it's not on the certification? It's because I'm trying to give you those adjacent skills so that you are successful in the future, okay? So how long does it take to study to pass this exam? Well, it depends, right? It depends. But if you're a beginner, we're probably looking at 30 hours. So this is someone who's never used AWS or a cloud provider before. You've never written code or had a technical role. If you're experienced, your study time is going to be very low, like as low as 6 hours, even lower if possible, especially if you've already taken the certification. I sat it blind, right? I didn't look up anything, and I passed it no problem. So it says here, if we've practiced or we have experience working with AWS, if we have an equivalent experience in another cloud service provider, some people are coming over from Azure or GCP, so they can kind of map their knowledge over to AWS. Or if they have a strong background in technology, you might really be already familiar with these kind of offerings from another discipline, and so your study time can be really low. But I would say that the average study time is probably 24 hours. So yes, it's closer to the beginner level, but that's the average study time that we found. And so it's basically a split between 50 lectures and labs. So labs are hands-on skills, and 50% with practice exams. A lot of people forget that practice exams are part of the study process, so make sure that you do that. We do recommend a study time of 1 to 2 hours a day for 14 days. What does it take to pass the exam? We're still going on with this here, but you have to watch those lecture videos and memorize key information. This is a knowledge-based exam. It's not it does not test your skills, so knowledge is key here. You should do hands-on labs. We call those follow-alongs within your own account. This is just going to help cement the knowledge in your head. It really makes a huge difference. So really do those hands-on labs and get practice exams to simulate the real exam. You absolutely need to do this, because if you don't, you're going to find that you did all the study materials, and then the exam is its own beast. So make sure that you go get some practice exams. There's a lot of places that you can get them from. We offer a full free practice exam. I think we're the only provider that does this, but we give you like a full free practice exam, and we also have some paid ones. So the best way to support this content that we produce is to purchase our additional paid materials. If you don't have the money, that's okay. We still have at least one full free practice exam to help you out. You can find that over at exampro.co/CLF-C02. It looks like an O, but it's a 0. Let's talk about the content outline. So there are 4 domains, and you have to understand that each domain has its own weighting. This is going to determine how many questions in that domain will show up on your exam. The first one is cloud concepts. So that's for 24%. So we're looking at between 15 to 16 questions. Domain 2 is about security and compliance. So that's 30%. It's quite high up there. So we have about 19, 20 questions. For cloud technologies and services, it's 34%. So understanding the offerings of AWS is the most important thing in the exam. It's the highest percentage here. So we're going to definitely get 22 questions. And then we have domain 4, so billing, pricing, and support, where it's at 12%. So we have 8 questions. Not a lot for billing, pricing, support. Definitely important because it's very easy to get overbilled in this stuff. But just, point out that you need to know a wide range of AWS services. You need to know about core services more in depth. So where do you take this exam? Well, you can take it at the at in-person test center or online from the convenience of your own home. I personally like to take it in a test center if there's one near me. I used to live in Toronto. Now I don't. So there's no test centers near me. And so I have to do it online. It's just so much less stressful walking into a building and everything is controlled, whereas at home, you might have a lot of things going on and that can cause a lot of stress, but do what makes sense for you. So AWS delivers the exams via Pearson VUE. And so There's Pearson VUE. They have the online system, which you install on your computer, and then they also have a network of test centers they're partnered with. Previously, AWS also offered it via PSI. They don't do this anymore. I'm not sure why they changed this. Before it was only PSI, then they added Pearson, and now they've dropped PSI. So your only option is Pearson VUE. I just want to point out what a proctored exam means. It means that it's someone is supervising your exam while you're taking it, so you're not cheating. So it's very common that when you check in, they're going to ask to look around your room. You might even have to talk to them, and it's just again to make sure that what you do is your exam was legit. So when they issue your badge, it's for real. Anyway, let's talk about grading here. So the passing grade here is 700 out of 1,000 points. And so you need to get around 70% to pass. AWS, like many other cloud providers, use scaled scoring. So that doesn't mean that if you get exactly 70% that you'll pass. But more or less it works out to be that. Okay, so the response types we have here. Well, first of all, we have 65 questions, and there are 50 questions that are scored, and then there's 15 that are unscored. And if that sounds bizarre, I agree with you. I think it's odd that they give you 15 unscored questions, but the reason AWS will do this is that they want to introduce new questions to help test against the difficulty of the exam, because maybe some people know more than what they're expecting, so they can adjust the difficulty of the exam. I think that they use it as an anti-cheat mechanism as well. But from the test taker, it can get a bit stressful because you can get 15 really crazy, wild questions that were not in your course studies, and it's just AWS testing things out. And so I just want to point out, don't get stressed out when you take this exam and you get a really funny question. It's probably one of those unscored questions. But on top of that, there are 15 scored questions you can get wrong. So you can get a total of 30 questions wrong on this exam and pass. I just want to make that really clear there. There is no penalty for wrong questions, so absolutely always submit an answer and take your best guess. The format of the questions are multiple choice and multiple answer, so it's not too stressful in terms of the formatting of questions. There are, again, 15 unscored questions of the exam. They will not count towards your final score. Why are there unscored questions? They're there to evaluate the introduction of new questions. They're there to determine if the exam is too easy and the passing score of the question difficulty needs to be increased, to discover users who are attempting to cheat the exam or steal dump exam questions. If you encounter questions you've never studied for that seem really hard, keep your cool and remember that they may be unscored questions. Just really want to emphasize that there. In terms of the duration, you get 1.5 hours, so you have about 1.5 minutes per question. Your exam time is 90 minutes. Your seat time is 120 minutes. What are we saying when we say seat time? This is the time it takes, or that you should allocate for the full exam. That includes things like reviewing the instructions, showing the online proctor your workspace, reading, accepting the NDA, completing the exam, provide the feedback at the exam. So a lot of people go, okay, my exam's starting, or I have 90 minutes of exam, but really you want to show up 30 minutes prior because that check-in process can be really, really stressful. So, just consider that the full scope of time you need to dedicate for these exams. This certification is valid for 36 months, so that's 3 years before recertification. Some other providers, like Azure, if you do the fundamentals, it's forever. Other ones require you to refresh every year. Other ones, you don't have to take the full exam. You have a reassessment that is free. AWS likes to do it this way. The nice thing, though, is that when you do pass a certification, somewhere AWS allows you to get the next exam half off. So at least there are cost-saving mechanisms if you do pass an exam for the next follow-up certification. But yeah, that is pretty much a breakdown of the exam guide. We will go and take a look at the actual exam guide so we can understand the full scope of what's in there. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.